I remember the exact moment my world cracked. It was a Tuesday evening, the kind where nothing dramatic is supposed to happen. I came home earlier than usual. Traffic was surprisingly light, and I thought it would be nice to surprise my husband, Nathan. We had been married for almost 8 years. You think you know a person after that long. I unlocked the door quietly, almost tiptoeing into the house like a teenager sneaking in past curfew. I don't know why. Maybe I just didn't want to disturb whatever he was doing. Maybe I just liked the idea of catching him off guard for once. But the first thing I noticed was the scent. It was sweet, heavy, and foreign. Perfume. Not mine. I paused in the hallway, breathing it in. It clung to the air like guilt, and my stomach turned in slow motion. Nathan had always been careful. Or so I thought. There were 2 wine glasses on the coffee table. One still had lipstick on the rim. I don't wear lipstick. Haven't in years. The throw pillows were misaligned, the way they get when someone unfamiliar tries to make the place look untouched. I walked slowly toward the kitchen, trying to quiet the storm rising in my chest. His phone was gone. He always left it charging on the counter when he was home. Always. And now nothing. I glanced at the clock on the microwave. 6:17 p.m. He had texted me at 5:38 saying he was home early and crashing on the couch. He wasn't here. And neither was whoever left that lipstick-stained glass. I told myself it was a client. He was a financial advisor after all. Maybe it was work. Maybe a colleague. Maybe he was showing someone the house for investment purposes. Maybe. But the gut doesn't lie. I sat on the couch, staring at that glass, letting 100 thoughts crawl through my brain. The scent on the cushions. The missing phone. The double wine glasses. The lie in his text. And the worst part? I wasn't surprised. I was terrified that some part of me already knew. It wasn't just a moment. It was a shift, a silent unraveling of everything I had built my life on. I had met Nathan during my final year of university. He was older, charming, and had that intoxicating mix of ambition and vulnerability that draws you in like a flame. He made me feel safe, adored, chosen. But now, I felt like a stranger in my own home. Like every piece of furniture had a secret I hadn't been told. I didn't cry. Not yet. Instead, I got up, walked into our bedroom, and opened his dresser. I never looked through his things before, not out of trust, but because I never wanted to find anything. But this time, I needed to look. His drawer was a mess. Receipts, pens, keys, gum wrappers. Then something stuck out, a folded napkin with a name and a number. Sasha read. A tiny heart doodled next to it like they were in high school. I took a photo of it. My hands were cold, steady. I didn't recognize myself. Over the next few days, I became someone else. I didn't ask questions. I didn't confront him. I played the role, smiling, kissing his cheek, asking how work was. But every night, I collected evidence like a soldier preparing for war. I checked his laptop when he went to shower. He had recently deleted his browsing history, another thing he never did. He started locking his phone. When I asked why, he said, "You know how work has gotten. Can't risk a data breach." Right. A data breach. He started staying late again. More meetings, more last-minute emergencies. I wanted to scream, but instead, I smiled and kissed him goodnight, then cried silently in the bathroom. The paranoia crept in. It started controlling my breathing, my thoughts, even my reflection. I began rehearsing the confrontation in my head, imagining how I'd say it, what I'd do. But a small voice inside me said, "Don't just catch him. Break him." Because it wasn't just the betrayal. It was the performance, the audacity, the idea that I could be treated like a fool in my own home, and he could get away with it. That he could lie to my face with the same mouth that once said, "I love you," under vows and stained glass. And maybe worse than that, he made me doubt my own mind, my own instincts. That made me furious. One night, around 11 p.m., he was asleep. I tiptoed to his phone, finally unlocked it using Face ID. It worked. His notifications were muted, but I went to WhatsApp and found the thread. Sasha at the top. I clicked. What I saw made my hands tremble. Videos. Pictures. Texts dripping with intimacy and secrets. They had a hotel they went to. They had a playlist. They had inside jokes. They had dates.
Planned.
Paid for. Enjoyed. And me? I was the stand-in wife who made dinner while he slipped away to someone else's skin. I copied everything to a hidden USB. Every message. Every photo. Every last disgusting detail. I had no plan. Only a burning need to gather it all. He stirred in bed as I slipped back beside him, USB in my palm, stomach churning with silent fury. "Everything okay, babe?" he mumbled. I kissed his shoulder and whispered, "Yeah." Just couldn't sleep. I didn't sleep that night. But I started planning. From the outside, everything looked normal. We still had our morning coffee together. Still exchanged quick goodbyes at the door. Still texted each other during the day. But inside me, something had shifted. I was no longer his wife. I was a quiet hurricane, gathering strength, counting every detail, memorizing every weakness. I stopped reacting emotionally and started acting strategically. I began with her, Sasha. I didn't go to her directly. That would be too easy. I wanted to understand her. Who was she? What made her think she could worm her way into my life, into my marriage, and just walk away unscathed? It wasn't hard to find her. One reverse image search of the photos from Nathan's phone led me to her Instagram. Public profile. Selfies, vacation pics, gym shots, food posts. A little heart emoji next to Boss Babe in her bio.
Typical.
I didn't follow her. I just watched. She had no idea she was being studied. I noticed patterns. She always posted when she was out with Nathan. Same clothes. Same nail color. I even noticed the same wine bottle in the background of a picture, one that I had bought the week before. But what disturbed me most was how happy she looked. Effortlessly, carelessly happy. Like she believed what they had was real. Like she thought he was hers. The thought made my blood boil. But I didn't lash out.
Not yet.
Instead, I gathered. I printed messages. Highlighted timestamps. Matched hotel receipts to his calendar excuses. I became a forensic analyst of my own downfall. The deeper I dug, the more layers I uncovered. He was using our joint bank account to pay for dinners, gifts, and hotel stays. And then hiding those transactions under vague categories, client meetings, networking events, business meals.
Lies.
Every line item on the bank statement was a betrayal wrapped in a transaction ID. I kept a separate notebook, one with everything cataloged by date, time, location. Like a case file. Like I was preparing for court. And honestly, maybe I was. Because at this point, it wasn't about heartbreak anymore. It was about power. Taking mine back. Then something happened that twisted the knife.
It was Saturday.
Nathan said he had to attend a seminar out of town. He packed a small overnight bag, kissed me on the cheek, and said, "I'll miss you." The same way he always did. But this time, I followed him. I waited 30 minutes, grabbed my keys, and drove, not close enough to be seen, just enough to keep him in view. He wasn't heading toward the highway like he said. He went downtown. Parked behind a boutique hotel.
Checked in.
And 5 minutes later, she arrived. I watched from my car as Sasha, in a short red dress and high heels, strutted through the glass doors like she owned the place. My husband met her in the lobby, kissed her right there. Bold, careless, like our vows were erased. My stomach dropped. But I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I took photos. I took video. I documented it all. Then I drove away. And that night, I made my decision. This wasn't going to be a screaming match in our kitchen. This wasn't going to be a dramatic divorce with tears and apologies. This was going to be a lesson. One that neither of them would ever forget. I started with Sasha. She worked as a social media coordinator at a boutique PR agency. Small team. Female-led. Family values on their website.
Cute.
I emailed them anonymously, with screenshots of her messages to my husband, the videos, and a simple subject line. Is this the kind of brand representative you want? No commentary. Just evidence. I knew corporate culture well enough to predict the fallout. She didn't post for 3 days after that. And when she came back online, her bio was different. No job listed. Just healing. One down. But I wasn't done. Nathan had a high-profile client coming in, a real estate developer from LA. He had spent weeks preparing for this deal. He told me it was his big break, that if he closed this, he could finally step away from the constant grind. He talked about buying us a lake house, starting a family. Funny. I waited until the night before the meeting. He was at the kitchen table, reviewing slides. I handed him a flash drive and said, "Hey, I found these old tax files on your computer. You might need them." He smiled, distracted. "Thanks, babe." I watched him insert it into his laptop. The desktop auto-loaded. Instead of tax files, there was a folder labeled, "Your Secret Life." It took him a second to register. Then his face drained of color. Photos, videos, screenshots. A side-by-side calendar of his meetings versus his hotel stays. And a letter, written by me, detailing everything. With one final line. "This is the version I haven't sent to your boss
Yet.
He looked up at me like I was a stranger. "You went through my phone?" I tilted my head. "Is that really the issue right now?" He stood up fast. Defensive. "You're insane." I smiled.
No.
Just thorough. That was the moment I knew I had him. Not just exposed, but scared. He was calculating what I might do next, who I might tell, what I already had done. And the best part? He didn't know half of it. The morning after the flash drive incident, Nathan didn't go to work. He said he was feeling sick. That was a lie. He was scared, terrified of who I might tell, what I might leak. He stayed home, pacing, checking his phone constantly, opening and closing his laptop like he could somehow undo what I'd shown him. I, on the other hand, acted as if nothing had changed. I watered the plants, made breakfast, hummed while folding laundry. He didn't eat. Couldn't. He just stared at me like I was a ghost that had come back with a vengeance. I knew he was waiting for me to explode, for the screaming match, for the sobbing. But I didn't give him any of that. Because I wasn't a broken wife. I was the woman behind the curtain now. And he didn't know what kind of show I was about to run. And then the bombshell dropped. Not from me. From her. That evening, I received an anonymous message on Instagram. No name. No profile picture. Just a single sentence. "You should know what Nathan said about you." Attached was an audio clip. I played it. At first, it was muffled, bar sounds, laughter. Then his voice. Smooth. Confident. The same tone he used when he was charming investors or sweet-talking me at dinner. "She's smart, yeah," he said. "But she's too smart, you know? Like, obsessed with control." Honestly, I just needed someone who made me feel like a man again. With her, it's like being monitored 24/7. She's more like a business partner than a wife. I stopped breathing. The voice on the other end, Sasha, laughed. "So, what? You're just waiting for the right time to leave her." Then came the part that destroyed every last flicker of doubt I had.
No.
"She's useful. She keeps my life together. Pays half the mortgage. Looks good on paper. Why would I give that up?" I dropped my phone. Useful. That was what I was to him. A financial partner? A cover story? Something to maintain until he no longer needed the stability? The rage came then, not the kind that explodes outward, but the kind that sits deep in your chest like a furnace. Slow, controlled, deadly. I had been holding back, thinking maybe this could be resolved with exposure. That his shame would be punishment enough.
But now?
Now I knew. He didn't just cheat. He used me. Everything, every hug, every kiss, every "I love you" was part of a carefully balanced equation. A facade he maintained for benefit. My love was his investment. My loyalty, his insurance policy. So I made a new plan. Not to destroy him publicly. That would be easy and obvious. He could spin it, play the victim, say it was a private matter.
No.
I wanted to unravel him from the inside out. I started with his job. Nathan worked for a boutique investment firm that prided itself on discretion and family values. They handled high-net-worth portfolios and operated under strict codes of ethics. Appearances mattered more than truth in that world. I created a burner email. I crafted a formal letter posing as a concerned insider. I attached just enough evidence. A few hotel receipts listed under client dinners that didn't match any expense records, time-stamped photos that aligned with dates he claimed were out-of-town meetings. Nothing that screamed affair, just enough to raise audit flags. 3 days later, he got called into an internal meeting. He came home that evening pale, rattled. "They're reviewing my accounts," he mumbled. "Why?" I asked, playing dumb. "I don't know," he lied. That night, he barely spoke. Sat in bed scrolling through his phone like he was trying to rewrite history. But history had already been recorded, by me. Then came the real twist. While monitoring his email, yes, I had access. He never changed his passwords. I found a hidden folder in his inbox titled Lease Options. Curious, I opened it. And what I found nearly made me drop my glass. Rental applications. Apartment viewings. Deposit confirmations. All dated 3 months ago. He had been planning to move out, to start a new life, presumably with her. The plan was already in motion before I caught him. He was going to walk away like a magician, disappearing with no trace, no explanation, just gone. But something had delayed him.
Me.
Maybe he needed a little more time. Maybe the new apartment wasn't ready yet. Maybe he was trying to bleed out our account before vanishing. Who knows? But it was all there. All of it. He wasn't just cheating. He was preparing for an exit. I felt something inside me snap. Not pain, not fear, something colder. Like steel sliding into place. That's when I did something I never thought I would. I printed everything: bank transfers, lease documents, call logs, and a copy of the audio file. Then, using my burner account, I sent it all to his parents. Not out of malice. Out of truth. They always thought we were the perfect couple. They told me, "You ground him. You make him better." I figured they deserved to know who their son really was. He found out 2 days later. His mother called during dinner, sobbing, screaming. He stood in the living room, eyes wide, phone shaking in his hand. He looked at me like I had betrayed him. And maybe I had. But not before he betrayed me first. "I can't believe you dragged my family into this," he said. I smiled coldly. "Oh, honey, I haven't even started." And I meant it. Because this wasn't just revenge. It was justice. By the time Nathan's firm officially suspended him pending investigation, he was barely holding himself together. His skin was pale, he'd stopped shaving, and his voice had lost that arrogant edge it used to carry. Each morning, he pretended like he still had control, still ran the world, but I knew better. I watched him unravel with each passing hour. And it was delicious. But I wasn't done yet. The final blow wasn't about emails or bank accounts. It was about control. See, Nathan thrived on being in power. He loved having the upper hand, emotionally, financially, even socially. He manipulated situations so subtly that even I didn't realize how deeply he had conditioned me to doubt myself. But now, the roles had reversed. He was the one walking on eggshells. I was the one watching silently, planning precisely. And so, I waited until the perfect moment. A Saturday night. We were supposed to attend his friend Alan's engagement party. A small, swanky rooftop event. Nathan had RSVP'd weeks ago. Alan was one of the few business contacts Nathan hadn't burned yet. His approval still mattered. He saw Alan as a stepping stone back into the inner circle of influence. "Are you almost ready?" Nathan asked from the living room, straightening his blazer nervously. I came out of the bedroom in a red dress. It used to be his favorite. His eyes lingered on me. Appreciation, longing, confusion. Maybe even fear. He knew something was coming. But not what. At the party, we played our roles, smiling, socializing, sipping champagne under fairy lights. But just as Nathan was mid-conversation with Alan about some imaginary consulting project he was working on, a woman tapped me on the shoulder. She looked awkward. A little embarrassed. "You're Nathan's wife, right?" she asked, glancing between me and him. I nodded. "I'm sorry to bring this up here, but are you aware that your husband has been messaging women on the Monaco Elite app for months?" My friend matched with him. He used a fake name, but the pictures, it's definitely him. I turned to Nathan. His glass slipped from his hand, shattering across the rooftop tile. Whispers erupted around us, like a wave. Alan's fiancée looked horrified. Alan stared at Nathan like he was a stranger. I didn't raise my voice, didn't create a scene. I simply smiled politely and said, "Thank you for letting me know. I appreciate your honesty." Then I turned to Nathan. "You always told me secrets destroy relationships," I said sweetly. "I guess you were right." We left early. Or rather, I left early. Nathan trailed behind like a disgraced child. He didn't speak during the car ride. Just stared out the window, jaw clenched. Back at home, I sat calmly on the couch while he paced, breathing hard. "You're ruining my life," he shouted suddenly. "Do you even realize what you're doing?" I met his eyes without flinching. "You mean the life you built by lying to me? Using me?" "It wasn't like that, wasn't it?" I cut him off. "You planned your escape months ago, Nathan. You had the lease signed before I even knew what was happening." His shoulders tensed. He knew he couldn't argue that. "I made mistakes, okay?" he said, voice rising. "But you're acting like you're some kind of saint." I stood up slowly. "No," I said. "I'm acting like someone who finally sees the truth. I'm not your doormat. I'm not your alibi. I'm not the pretty face you keep around to look respectable. I'm done playing house while you pretend to be someone you're not." Then came the confrontation I had rehearsed in my mind 100 times. I walked to the drawer and pulled out the thick envelope I'd been keeping hidden. Inside, every piece of evidence I'd gathered. The audio clip, the bank transactions, screenshots from his dating profiles, legal documents I'd had quietly prepared with my lawyer. I dropped it all on the table in front of him. "I want a divorce." He froze. "What? You heard me. You can't be serious." "Not like this. This is just emotions talking. We can fix this." "No, Nathan. You broke it. You don't get to decide how this ends." His face twisted with panic. "Don't do this. Please. You don't know what I'll lose, my job, my reputation, everything." "You should have thought of that before choosing betrayal over honesty," I replied. He sat down hard on the couch, head in his hands. The mighty Nathan, smooth-talking, ego-driven, always in control Nathan, was crumbling. It was almost pitiful. Almost. "I trusted you," I said softly. "I gave you every chance to be real with me. And you chose lies. You chose her. You chose them." He didn't speak. So I kept going. "From here on out, you can deal with the consequences. Tell your firm whatever you want. Spin your story, however it helps you sleep at night. But I'm done protecting you." Then I turned to leave the room. He grabbed my wrist. "Please. Just think this through. We can start over. We can see someone, go to counseling. I'll do anything." I looked at his hand on my arm. Cold. Desperate. Slowly, I pulled away. "No, Nathan. You already did everything. And now, I'm doing what I should have done a long time ago." That was it. No more words. No more chances. The confrontation wasn't about drama or revenge anymore. It was about freedom, and I had never felt lighter in my life. The next morning, the sun crept through the curtains like it was trying to be gentle with me, like it knew I'd been through war. The house was quiet, eerily so. Nathan was gone. I didn't know where, and honestly, I didn't care. He must have packed a few things while I slept, or pretended to. That man had lied so much, he probably thought slipping away in silence was his final trick. But it wasn't a trick. It was surrender. He knew he'd lost. I stood in the kitchen holding a cup of coffee, staring out the window, thinking, what now? What happens when you finally burn the bridge you kept walking back across? I was free. But freedom, I discovered, came with silence. With a lot of staring at your own face in the mirror and trying to figure out who you are when you're no longer wrapped around someone else's shadow. The papers were filed by noon. My attorney had everything prepped. The evidence packet was airtight, overwhelming. There would be no dispute. No long court battle. He'd probably sign just to avoid further humiliation. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "You win. I hope you're happy." I didn't respond. I deleted it. Because he still didn't get it. It was never about winning. It was about waking up. Over the next few weeks, I did everything he never let me do. I reconnected with my college friends. The ones he said were too emotional or bad influences. I went out to dinner alone and ordered dessert first just because I could. I repainted the bedroom, got a haircut, started writing again. Every act was a quiet rebellion against the version of me he had constructed. But then something happened I didn't expect. I got a letter in the mail. No name on the envelope. Just my address typed. Inside was a single photo. Nathan, at a bar, with a woman. The same woman from the photos I had found months ago, the first woman, the original sin. But this time, she looked different. Angry. Upset. Nathan looked worse. Bloated. Unshaven. Eyes bloodshot. And scribbled on the back, in handwriting I didn't recognize, were 5 words. He ruins everything he touches.
I stared at it for a long time.
Was it from her? Another woman? A stranger? I'd never know. But it didn't matter. Because in that moment, the final truth clicked into place.
It was never about me.
Nathan's betrayal wasn't some reaction to what I lacked. It was a reflection of what he was missing. And no amount of love, loyalty, or second chances would have ever filled that void in him. He would always break what loved him. And I had simply stepped away before he could break me completely. The final twist didn't come with a bang. It came with peace. It came with me realizing that revenge wasn't in the destruction. It was in the rebuilding. One morning, I received an email from a recruiter. Apparently, one of the firms Nathan used to work with saw a design piece I had posted online, something I had created years ago, buried deep in a portfolio I forgot existed. They wanted me to join their creative team. A real opportunity. On my own terms. I stared at the screen for a moment, overwhelmed. Was this it? Was this what life looked like when you finally stepped into your own story? I said yes. A few months later, I moved cities.
Took the job.
Rented a small apartment with a balcony where I could sit in the evenings, wine glass in hand, legs crossed, watching the lights flicker in windows I'd never have to share with a liar again. I changed my number, blocked Nathan's family, unfollowed all mutual friends. I became something new, a woman without baggage. But late at night, sometimes I still hear the echoes. Not of him, not of the fights, not even of the betrayal, but of the silence that came after. The silence that said, "You did it. You saved yourself." And that silence? That's the twist no one expects in stories like mine. They always focus on the chaos, the confrontation, the fallout. But the real twist? It's peace. It's waking up without a knot in your stomach. It's not needing closure from someone who only ever offered confusion. It's walking away and never needing to look back.